Hi, this is Allison Vangsness, and this is my Classroom 1 report. The first thing that I looked at in Classroom 1 was the article on video games, learning, and content by James Paul Gee. And this article primarily focused on games as experiential learning. In other words, that people are learning through experiences. And Gee talks about 5 different ways that people use experiences to help them learn. You can use experiences for future problem solving as long as that experience has goals. For experiences to be useful, though, they have to be interpreted. People are going to learn best from experiences when they get immediate feedback, and people need opportunities to apply the previous experiences to what's happening in their present life. And people need to learn from interpreted experiences of others, not just their own. All 5 of these are reasons that video games can promote learning. Gee also touched on the importance of social identity for learning to take place, and mentioned that games can help establish that importance of social identity. One thing that Gee talked about was the difference between game lowercase and game capital, which is something that I was unaware of beforehand. So game lowercase, that's referring to the actual software needed for the program, and game with a capital G is the actual social setting where it is played. Gee also talked about a situated learning matrix game approach, and that focuses on social identity, goals, and content. And I really enjoyed that Gee had mentioned that learning in video games is not just a free-for-all. It shouldn't be that for games to be educational, it needs to have structure, it needs to have a purpose, and it needs to have a goal. Or else it is just going to be a free-for-all and students aren't going to be taking anything away from it. The next thing that I took a look at was the Revolutionary Learning podcast by Dr. David Selo. Dr. Selo runs the Center for Game and Simulation-Based Learning. The idea for the center actually came out of trying to develop a new way to teach writing. He brought in writing experts and he brought in game experts to try and collaborate to make a new and innovative way to teach writing. So that's what the center serves to do, is to try and develop new ways of learning and look for innovative approaches to learning and to solving problems. The center has been pretty successful due to collaboration with professionals in education and in gaming. They have had some difficulties, though. In particular, Selo talks about the learning management tools, things like D2L or Moodle, and how they are not always the easiest to integrate game-based learning activities. And so that's something that he had mentioned that they are working towards. This topic is revolutionary learning, and he references the colonists and breaking free from Britain and just the idea of doing something revolutionary, something new, something different. And right now the center is currently focusing on using games and simulations to solve public health concerns. The next thing I looked at was the informational video from Superintendent Miller. She focused on talking about serious games, games that are used for educational purposes. You see these in education, military, healthcare, government, corporate settings, and trainings. It involves problem solving, feedback, and provides stimuli. These are not risky. They provide a safer environment for the learners where they can make mistakes, they can have competition, and it allows learners to transfer information. So to take what they're learning and actually use it in real life. And she also talked about some simulations that could be real or virtual. So real life, participant is acting out what they would really do in a simulation. Example, police academies and medical training. Superintendent Miller had mentioned the police academies and even like SWAT teams using real life simulations. And my younger brother is going to be a police officer, and he is a police explorer right now in a police reserve, and he has finished hundreds of hours of real life simulations where they've gone so far as to shut down malls in the Twin Cities and hundreds of training officers go into the mall and they act out live shooters and things like that. So I know how powerful real life simulations can be because he's told me all about them, and that he's learned more in those real life simulations than he's learned from any of his textbooks and sitting in any of the classrooms. Another part of simulations would be a virtual simulation. Superintendent Miller had mentioned driver's ed courses or learning to fly like a bird. So those are some serious games and simulations that were mentioned. The next thing that I looked at was the immersive simulations article. Immersive simulations are collaborative inquiry activities, and the author set out to develop a collective learning experience where everyone was going to be engaged. He created a 12-week curriculum based on the KCI model, and the KCI is Knowledge, Community, and Inquiry model, and that sets out to integrate inquiry activities into the knowledge community to make a collective inquiry. And KCI has had positive reactions from researchers and scholars, but has not been as successful with K-12 teachers actually implementing it into the classroom. This idea of the knowledge community does have challenges, and the never-ending, I should say, argument, depth versus breadth of education. How deep do you go into your content when there is very limited time to get through it all? The last one that I looked at was Teaching with Simulations website. This focused on why use simulations. They help engage students in a deeper learning instead of just a surface learning of memorizing the states and the capitals and dates and the periodic table. It actually helps them make deeper connections to what they are learning. It can help students make predictions about the world, help students learn scientific methods like model building, relationships between variables, or predicting outcomes. It can help students learn to reflect on and expand knowledge. Students are actively engaged. They can transfer knowledge. And simulations is one of the most used pedagogies in industry and government. And I pulled this Chinese proverb from the actual website. I really enjoy this because it hits kind of home just how important involving students in their learning through games or simulations or whatever it may be, making sure that they're getting the most out of their education. So how do I feel like Classroom 1 could be used in the new school? Well, games and simulations should have a huge role in our new school. Research shows that games and simulations increase deeper learning. It can help promote students to meet the 21st century skills that are needed: problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration. Games and simulations are going to allow students to take risks and make mistakes in a safe environment. And I also put in my slideshow this TED Talk from Jonathan Best, and he does a great job of talking about how to use gaming and simulations to increase achievement in schools. In particular, he's an 8th grade teacher, and I teach 7th and 8th grade, so I made a lot of connections to what he had to say. Thank you so much for watching my screencast. Have a great day.